The Netherlands is both a very densely populated and a highly developed country, in which transport is a key factor of the economy. Correspondingly, it has a very dense and modern infrastructure, facilitating transport with road, rail, air and water networks. In its Global Competitiveness Report for 2014-2015, the World Economic Forum ranked the Dutch transport infrastructure fourth in the world, with a total road network of 139,000 kilometers, including 3,530 kilometers of expressways. The Netherlands has one of the densest road networks in the world, much denser than Germany and France, but still not as dense as Belgium. The Dutch also have a well-developed railway network that connects most major towns and cities, as well as a comprehensive dedicated cycling infrastructure, featuring some 35,000 kilometers of track physically segregated from motorized traffic. The Port of Rotterdam is the world's largest seaport outside East Asia, and by far the largest port of Europe. It connects with its hinterland in Germany, Switzerland and France through rivers Rhine and Meuse. Two-thirds of all inland water freight shipping within the EU, and 40% of containers, pass through the Netherlands. Mobility in the Netherlands is considerable. On the roads it has grown continuously since the 1950s and now exceeds 200 billion km traveled per year, three-quarters of which are done by car. Around half of all trips in the Netherlands are made by car, 25% by bicycle, 20% walking, and 5% by public transport. Additionally, Dutch airports handled 58 million passengers in 2013. Excluding air travel, the Dutch journey more than 30 kilometers a day on average, which takes them just over an hour. In 2010, 1.65 billion tons of goods traffic was registered, half of which moved by sea and inland shipping, and 40% by road transport. The remainder was mostly by pipelines. Rail transport only handles 2% of freight movements through the Netherlands. Road transport. With 139,000 kilometers of public roads, the Netherlands has one of the most dense road networks in the world, much denser than Germany and France, but still not as dense as Belgium. In 2013, 5,191 kilometers were national roads, 7,778 kilometers were provincial roads, and 125,230 kilometers were municipality and other roads. Dutch roads include 3,530 kilometers of motorways and expressways, and with a motorway density of 64 kilometers per 1,000 square kilometers. The country also has one of the densest motorway networks in the world. The Netherlands' main highway network, comparable to Britain's network of trunk roads, consists of most of its 5,200 kilometers of national roads, supplemented with the most prominent provincial roads. Although only about 2,500 kilometers are fully constructed to motorway standards, much of the remainder are also expressways for fast motor vehicles only. Mobility on Dutch roads has grown continuously since the 1950s and now exceeds 200 billion km traveled per year, three-quarters of which are done by car, meaning that while Dutch roads are numerous, they are also used with one of the highest intensities of any road network. Car ownership in the Netherlands is high but not exceptional, and slightly lower than in surrounding countries. Goods vehicles account for 20% of total traffic. The busiest Dutch motorway is the A16 in Rotterdam, with a traffic volume of 232,000 vehicles per day. The widest Dutch motorway is the A15, just south of Rotterdam, with 16 lanes in a 4+4+4+4 setup. Cycling. Cycling is a ubiquitous mode of transport in the Netherlands. 27% of all trips are by bicycle, the highest modal share of any country in the world. Moreover, 31% of the Dutch list the bike as their main mode of transport for daily activities. Some 85% of the people own at least one bicycle. All in all, the Dutch are estimated to have at least 18 million bikes, which makes more than one per capita, and twice as many as the California. 9 million motor vehicles on the road. Almost as many passenger kilometers are covered by bicycle as by train. Cycling infrastructure is comprehensive, and public policy, urban planning and laws are bike-friendly. Most roads except for motorways support cyclists, and bikeways are clearly signposted, well-maintained and well-lit. Dedicated cycle tracks are common on busy roads. Some 35,000 kilometers of track has been physically segregated from motor traffic, equal to a quarter of the country's entire road network. Busy junctions often give priority to cyclists, or they are equipped with cycle-specific traffic lights. There are large bicycle parking facilities, particularly in city centers and at train stations. In 2013, the European Cyclists Federation ranked the Netherlands, together with Denmark, as the most bike-friendly country in Europe. Helmets are neither officially encouraged nor frequently worn. Rail transport. Most distance traveled on Dutch public transport is by rail. Like many other European countries, the Netherlands has a dense railway network, totaling 6,830 kilometers of track, or 3,013 route km, three-quarters of which has been electrified. The network is mostly focused on passenger transport and connects virtually all major towns and cities, counting as many train stations as there are municipalities in the Netherlands. Public passenger rail transport is operated mainly by Nederlandse Spoorwegen, minor parts by Arriva, Sintis, Connexen, Breng, DB Regia, NMBS, Veolia and DB Regional Bahn-Westfalen. During weekdays, almost all railway stations are serviced at least twice an hour in each direction. Large parts of the network are serviced by 2 to 4 trains per hour on average. Heavily used tracks are serviced up to 8 trains an hour per kilometer of track. The Dutch rail network is the busiest in the European Union, handling over 1 million passengers a day. In recent years, the 4 largest railway stations in the Netherlands, the central stations of each of the largest cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague and Utrecht, have all entered into major reconstruction and expansion. The rebuild of Rotterdam Central was the first to complete, reopening in March 2014. Public transport. For longer distances, the main public transport in the Netherlands is the train. Long-distance buses are limited to a few missing railway connections. Regional, rural public transport, serving small towns, is by bus. Local, urban public transport is also generally by bus, but the 3 biggest cities all have extensive tram systems that in each case also connect with adjacent cities in their respective urban agglomerations. Amsterdam and Rotterdam have several metro lines as well. Additionally, Rotterdam, The Hague and suburbs in between are connected by a light rail system called Randstadrail, and one line of the Rotterdam metro system connects all the way to The Hague Central Station. Utrecht has its own light rail system, called Fast Tram, connecting the city with adjacent Nieuwegein and IJsselstein. Arnhem is the only Dutch town that still operates a trolleybus system. Due to the large amount of waterways in the Netherlands, not every road connection has been bridged, and there are still some ferries in operation. In the Rotterdam region, a waterbus public transport service is operating as well. Public transport operators are both the public transport companies run by the big cities, GVB, RET and HTM, as well as private enterprise companies like Arriva, Connexen, Qbuzz, Sintis and Veolia. Air travel. Schiphol Airport, just southwest of Amsterdam, is the main international airport in the Netherlands, and the 5th busiest airport in Europe in terms of passengers. Schiphol is the primary hub for Dutch flag carrier airline KLM and its regional affiliate KLM Cityhopper, as well as for other Dutch airlines Arkfly, Corend and Dutch Airlines, Martinair and Transavia.com. The airport also serves as a European hub for American carrier Delta Airlines. In other regions there are much smaller international airports, the most popular being Eindhoven Airport, Rotterdam The Hague Airport, Maastricht-Aken Airport and Groningen Airport. On the latter two, a considerable share of flights are seasonal in nature. For transport within the country, air travel is hardly used. In 2013, Dutch airports handled 58 million passengers, and 1.6 million metric tons of air freight. Water transport. Ports and harbours. The Netherlands has 13 seaports, 3 of which have international significance, handling 440 million metric tons of cargo in 2013. The Port of Rotterdam is the biggest port of Europe, as big as the next 3 biggest combined, and the 8th largest in the world. The Amsterdam seaport is the 2nd in the country, and the 5th largest in Europe. Additionally, since 1998, the ports of Flushing and Terneuzen are working as one, under the name of Zeeland Seaports, handling 34 million metric tons of cargo in 2012. This is now the 3rd biggest Dutch seaport. For comparison, the nearby Port of London handled 44 million tons in that year. Through the rivers Rhine and Meuse, Rotterdam has excellent access to its hinterland upstream, reaching to Germany, France and Switzerland. The port's main activities are petrochemical industries and general cargo handling and transshipment. The harbour functions as an important transit point for bulk materials and between the European continent and overseas. From Rotterdam, goods are transported by ship, river, barge, train or road. In 2007, the Betuwe route, a new fast freight railway from Rotterdam to Germany, was completed. 3 Dutch ports are deep-water ports that can handle fully laden Panamax ships: Rotterdam, Zeeland Seaports and the Port of Amoden. Besides Rotterdam, Amsterdam and Zeeland, the ports of Moerdijk and Vlaardingen also support container liner shipping. Other notable port cities are Dordrecht, Haarlem and Den Helder, as well as Groningen, which controls the seaports of Delfzijl and Eemshaven. Den Helder is home to the Netherlands' main naval base. Merchant marine total: 563 ships totaling 4,035,899 GRT, 4,576,841 tons deadweight. Ships by type: bulk 3, cargo 343, chemical tanker 41, combination bulk 2, container 56, liquefied gas 20, livestock carrier 1, multifunctional large load carrier 8, passenger 8, petroleum tanker 25, refrigerated cargo 32, roll-on, roll-off 16, short sea passenger 3, specialized tanker 5. Note: many Dutch-owned ships are also operating under the Registry of Netherlands Antilles Inland Waters and shipping. 6,237 kilometers of rivers and canals are navigable for ships of 50 tons. Some 3,740 kilometers of this consist of canals. At least 4,326 kilometers of waterways are usable by craft up to 400 metric ton capacity, and over 3,000 kilometers are usable by ships up to 1,250 metric ton capacity. Although another source states that all of 6,230 kilometers is navigable for craft up to 400 tons, and over 4,000 kilometers is usable by ships up to 1,500 metric ton capacity. The Dutch inland shipping fleet is the biggest in Europe, consisting of some 7,000 vessels. It takes a share of 35% of the national total annual freight transport, and as much as 80% of bulk transport. Also 2/3 of all inland water freight transports within the EU, and 40% of inland container shipping, pass through the Netherlands. All in all, the Netherlands has so many waterways that virtually all major industrial areas and population centers can be reached by water via inland ports and transshipment terminals. Punting and canal boats are very common, and are used by a lot of tourists. Pipelines. crude oil 418 kilometers, petroleum products 965 kilometers, natural gas 10,230 kilometers. Government transport in the Netherlands falls under the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Environment. Economics. Although transport economics is much more than just the economy of the transport sector itself, the latter is much easier to quantify. In 2012, the Dutch goods transport and storage sectors by themselves accounted for almost 400,000 full-time jobs, employing some 500,000 people. Gross revenues totaled €77 billion, leading to results of €4.3 billion.